A tricky thing to do is to understand that you lack knowledge in an area. Often we want to look like we know everything and have it all together and not make a fool of ourselves. But when it comes down to it, you don't know what you don't know. Doing something about that is hard because you have to admit that we don't. But doing so, seeking insight and executing on that could leave an impact in ways that you never imagined. Like for instance, how a small indie game affected a Star Wars one. Hey, my name's Charles McGregor, and I realize that this is a pretty vague statement. The very idea of knowing the fact that you don't know about something is a weird position to be in. You have to just get that there's an aspect of something you aren't familiar with, or you don't have all the information on. Particularly that last part is pretty tricky. When you have partial information on a topic, enough to form a base opinion on or get by, that is when it's hardest to break away from those biases. But being okay with saying that you don't know and then looking to gain information on that topic is so helpful.
Aaron, our graphics engineer, I'll ask him a math question. He's like, I don't know. And he's perfectly fine with saying, I don't know. And I like that. It's more of a collaborative, we help each other, and we're okay saying that.
For me personally, I think that this realization came from my love of unappreciated devices. I absolutely love the Vita and the Windows Phone. Yes, Microsoft used to make phones. It really pains me that I have to clarify that. Anyway, the reason why I bring these up is because I loved it when games and apps catered towards those platforms. When PlayStation introduced the idea of cross-saving between the PlayStation 3 and the Vita, I loved it when games utilized that. Playing Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time, and jumping between console and handheld was magical. And it didn't even need to be that big a feature. When an app utilized live tiles on the Windows Phone, I was always pleasantly surprised and appreciated the extra care. But I also understood that for a lot of developers, just getting the game on the device was a feat on its own, especially with these two devices. So they wouldn't even think about these platform features or even that there was a demand for them. Understandably, they had to pick their battles. You just have to be aware that there's a battle to begin with. And this is where I think lies a potential solution to this problem. Being self-aware of your biases help a lot in finding what things you might be overlooking. When you approach a problem and immediately go to defaulting or waving something off, that is a moment where you can ask, why? Why are you saying, yep, and then we'll do saving, and then moving on, not thinking twice about it? Like asking, why not have better cloud save support? Just understanding that you passed over a feature people might really care about is immensely powerful. But why is this important? Well, it can actually leave an impact on players or a community. A clear example of this is achievements. This is commonly something that is put off towards the very end of development, which leads to it being an afterthought. When I was working on Hyperdot, this is something that I actually knew I didn't really know about. That is because I've been aware of the communities of achievement and trophy hunters that have existed for years now. I've heard complaints about how certain games had bad achievements or how games were primarily just made for them. And I wanted to know why that was. Why do they not like certain achievement lists? What makes a great one? I wanted to put in the extra effort to make my achievements worthwhile for those types of players. Knowing I didn't know led me to start asking questions. I sought the advice of people from that community. I joined and chatted with people who were actively a part of it. I learned a lot about what people liked and didn't like how hunters don't really like it when games have achievements like do this an obscenely high amount of times. Stat focused ones are fine if it's something you can do during regular play or a bit of extended play, but something like take out 500,000 enemies in a 1v1 game is not appreciated. I took these learnings and applied it to Hyperdot, continuing to ask questions when I didn't know. In the end, was I successful with this? Did players like my achievements? Well, it was a mixed bag. Players did actually appreciate and see the extra effort and even recommended others try the game for achievements specifically, which is an awesome feeling. But there were also some stumbles with the reliability of achievements unlocking, and I had to iron those out post-launch, which didn't feel good and I felt terrible about. But really, I wouldn't have even been aware of these pitfalls, let alone have people enjoy my list of achievements if I didn't ask. But like I mentioned, I knew that I didn't know about this community, so I knew to ask. But what about when you don't have that? I was sort of aware that there was a need for accessibility, but my knowledge of the topic was very limited. Years ago, I read an article talking about some guidelines I could use to make my games more accessible. It was broken down into small, medium, and large things you can do. I wasn't in a position where I could act on really any of them because I was still in the start, stop, restart phase of my game dev journey. So I took to the few easy small things you could do and just remembered to integrate those ideas in the project. Fast forward years into the future and many projects and games later, I applied the same knowledge to Hyperdot. But the thing is, that is as far as I took it. I had learned enough to form an opinion that I'm doing enough. And at the time, there weren't as many examples of games pushing for that, like there are nowadays in 2023. Truly, I stumbled into accessibility. I implemented Tobii Eye Tracker support because a friend and I were jokingly saying I should, and I thought it would be a novel experience. But people brought up that this could be used for accessibility. Soon after that, a player at a local event with low vision tried to play and absolutely failed at being able to play Hyperdot. And this crushed me. Before that encounter, a wide range of people played from 3 to 70 years old, but to see that really gutted me. These moments were the catalyst for me realizing that I didn't know about something. In this case, accessibility. I was personally motivated to learn more while also being encouraged by my publisher, Glitch. We reached out to an accessibility consultant and devised a plan to do playtests of games with disabled streamers. The catch? We were going to do this publicly and they would stream themselves reacting and giving feedback live for the world to see. I was personally stressed out about this. This was the first time that Hyperdot was running on a machine that I didn't put the game on. Meaning I wasn't going to be there to do my whole spiel, to point out features or things that they can try. They would be left to their own devices. And you know that thing that I said at the start of the video, not wanting to make a fool of yourself for not knowing? That definitely kicked into play here. This was public. If the streamer couldn't play the game because it wasn't accessible, then I'd have egg on my face and also feel bad because they couldn't play. But that is why I told myself, this is the point of the whole thing. I'm there to learn about something I don't know. I want to learn about the good and the bad. We pressed forward with it, and overall, it went well. Most people could play the game with minimal problems. We were able to get a lot of feedback where we could improve and where we excelled, but my fear of a streamer not being able to play did happen. One streamer couldn't get far into the game due to the order of the levels. There were a lot of dark mode levels that prevented them from being able to progress because of their low vision. So, based off of everyone's feedback, I was able to adjust and make the game better because of it. As nerve-wracking as the experience was, I'm glad that we did it. I learned more about a thing I used to default on. The campaign included people who knew about accessibility, and because it was public-facing, others could watch and learn as well. But little did I know who was watching. While we were doing these public playtests, James Berg, who at the time was the senior UX researcher at EA, saw these and took note, figuring why couldn't they take a similar approach and get their game in the hands of streamers to test and give feedback on accessibility features. That game just so happened to be Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Hey, BD1. I'm Cal.
Which, what? I still can't believe that even after all this time. To see evidence of people taking inspiration from the stuff that I work on is really humbling, let alone it being EA and Star Wars. Berg stated that Hyperdot's A11Y campaign inspired him to take a similar approach for Fallen Order's accessibility, seeking their insights from the community, in turn impacting the things that they prioritize, which they probably wouldn't have without knowing that they didn't have all the information. I understand that all of this is easier said than done. Like I said before, knowing you don't know is inherently difficult, but doing so can leave an impact on a community, a group, or a player. It is helpful to be empathetic towards those areas and can lead to a better product overall. Exposing yourself to different niches and perspectives can help inform you on where to look. With that said, you can't do it all, and you can't make everyone happy. It takes time to first do the research, but then also in some cases to do the work. This could lead to things that a majority of people aren't interested in. I understand. Time is valuable, so pick your battles. Knowing about something in this case is better than not. Use that info as you see fit. You could even apply this knowledge to future projects and tackle it then. Besides, you never know who is watching or who might appreciate the attention to detail. You could make someone's day, or you could very well inspire others to do the same.